Hello there, thanks for tuning in to your favorite news destination. You're watching In Your Interest with me, Kabir Naqvi, and we're again talking about the West Asian escalation. Because if you heard Donald Trump's press conference just yesterday, he spoke about how the troops are going to land in and we're going to take the uranium ourselves if it comes to that. These deadlines are becoming like pressure tactics from the Republican administration. And if the boots really do touch the ground on Kharg Island or one of those islands, what's going to be the objective? What's going to be the mission? What happens when a hesitant America, because we've seen Donald Trump walk back on those claims plenty of times, what happens when a hesitant America meets a prepared Iran? Let's break that down for you. The world is watching the Persian Gulf as the United States and Iran stand at their most dangerous crossroads in decades. For the past several days, the White House has maintained a strategy of maximum pressure, centered on a 48-hour ultimatum that demanded Iran surrender its control over the world's most vital energy chokehold, the Strait of Hormuz. President Donald Trump has been explicit in his warnings. He says he's going to target and destroy Iran's power plants to create an energy collapse if the Strait of Hormuz remains restricted. Now, this aggressive tone reached another peak on the 21st of March. The United States wanted to break Iran's hold on this vital waterway, which carries about 1/5 of the world's traded oil. Yet, by 26th of March, the administration suddenly pivoted. Yet again, the president announced a 10-day extension to his deadline, with the new deadline now on the 6th of April at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. He claimed the delay was requested by Iran, which is quote-unquote begging for a deal, and that productive conversations were happening behind the scenes. The president's own rhetoric regarding the use of American troops has also fluctuated wildly. We'll show it to you. In early March, he suggested a quick conflict with no boots on the ground. But as the weeks have passed on, his position has shifted to include the possibility of ground forces, particularly to secure the nuclear sites, like I mentioned earlier. By the 20th of March, the president took a more secretive tone, stating that if he were to plan a ground invasion, he certainly would not be telling the public about it. The picture on the diplomatic side remains mixed up as well. Donald Trump has described conversations as productive and said Iran wants a deal. Iran, however, denies holding direct talks with the United States. He's called them lunatic, he's called them sinister, he's called them sick, he's also called them lousy fighters on one hand and says they're great negotiators on the other. And has also rejected key parts of American proposals. That's coming from the Iranian side. The war, now in its fourth week, very soon entering the second month, has already gone beyond the short timeline that some had expected. Whilst these statements mix talk of possible deals with military readiness, the Pentagon has moved more forces into the region. Take a look at this. 2 Marine Expeditionary Units totaling around 4,000 to 5,000 Marines have been deployed aboard ships, including the USS Tripoli and the USS Boxer, New Orleans. These units, amphibious docks, are trained for amphibious operations focused on the Strait of Hormuz and that area. In addition, the Army is preparing to send 2,000 to 4,000 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division, known for rapid parachute assaults. Officials say these reinforcements give the president more options if diplomacy fails. One possible target discussed in military plannings is the Kharg Island. This small island handles about 90% of Iran's crude oil exports before the conflict. Seizing or neutralizing it could put strong economic pressure on Iran without a full invasion of the mainland per se. And other sites in the list are the energy grid, the missile production hubs, and the Natanz nuclear facility. Iran is not waiting idly, mind you, for a ground invasion to happen. Reports indicate they have heavily mined the waters around the Kharg Island, the Qasem Island, and deployed shoulder-fired missiles and troops to protect their economic assets. Their strategy is one of decentralized defense, designed to keep their military operational even if their central command is hit by airstrikes. And they have warned that any attack on their energy infrastructure will result in the mining of the entire Gulf and retaliatory strikes against US and allied targets. With the mobilization of nearly 1 million people, Iran is signaling that if a war begins, it will not be the short 4-week conflict something Washington originally predicted. It will be a long, painful war of attrition. Esteemed panelists with us on the broadcast on In Your Interest, and the big questions that we must talk about. We have seen the rhetoric shift from no boots on the ground to now securing nuclear material ourselves if it comes to that. Is the United States prepared for the long-term occupation that would be required to hold these sites? Are the new troop deployments, the numbers that we've just put out for you, simply leverage to force a deal or preparation for limited ground action on Kharg Island or one of those islands in the vicinity? With Iran threatening to strike United States and its Gulf allies if the Iranian power grid is targeted, what are the immediate risks to the global oil prices and the stability of the world economy that's already reeling under this energy shock per se? Ambassador Suresh K. Goyal, former Indian diplomat, with us on the broadcast. Major General Rajan Kochar, strategy and geopolitical expert. Many thanks, General. And Ambassador Adit Kothari, always a pleasure to have you with us, foreign affairs and geopolitical expert, joining us live from London. Ambassador, very quickly, we've literally showcased how the US president has walked back at least 4 to 5 times only in the month of March alone. Is there any credible diplomatic off-ramp that's left? Have US and Iran already gone past the point of negotiation, and these talks that Donald Trump just spoke about, they're just a trap? They're not talks. These talks are a trap. He's waiting. He's buying some time. And on the other hand, you've got Steve Witkoff, who says we've tried our best. The Iranian regime seems to be stalling talks so that they can buy some time and hope for a weaker president to come next.
Iran is not talking to Steve Witkoff anymore at all. They have said that they will not talk to Witkoff. They will talk only to J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
So I do not know who is Witkoff talking to and what is the basis for his assessment. There are threats, there are warnings, ultimatums, and all kinds of things. Situation on ground, the US continues to deploy Marines in the area.
Yeah.
Their target is basically to see that if they can limit Iran in its own defensive postures and in its aggression, so to say. Iran considers that they have been attacked by the USA. They feel threatened. They have given their 5 points for the peace ceasefire as against the 15 points from the USA. But they are quite determined that unless there is a guarantee for no further attacks on Iran, there is no deal.
Okay.
Importantly, both Iran and the USA seem to be coming to an end of their own, kind of withholding power or the determination to continue. Ultimately, there is a limit to the kind of munition that can be deployed in any war. And I think they are feeling the pinch now, and therefore they want to end it. Israel doesn't. So the situation is who wants to end the war and who doesn't. I don't think Israel wants to, Iran wants to, USA wants to, but they need to find on what terms. That is where we are. In the meantime, the deployment continues. So there is confusion, there is uncertainty as to what further action can be taken under the circumstances to make any kind of predictions. Assessments, yes, but predictions, no.
Yeah, and all the other proxy players are, starting to get entangled in this. After the Strait of Hormuz, Ambassador, we're talking about the Bab al-Mandab Strait, and the Houthis are now coming into action as well. But let's focus on this ground invasion and what it might lead to. General, let me come to you very quickly. The deployment of the 82nd Airborne Division. We all know what this division can do, parachute into, very heavily safeguarded airfields also. And Donald Trump says that this is just to give him some more options. He also patted on Pete Hegseth quite many times in that yesterday's press conference, saying you're doing a great job, Pete. And what does this essentially indicate? Is it simply preparedness? What's your assessment of this? What happens if a hesitant America meets a very prepared Iran?
Thank you, Kabir, because from a military point of view, I'd like to make an assessment here.
Yeah.
This is a no-go operation. You see, if you consider the terrain, ground realities, the force ratios. You see, whenever you plan a military operation, in case there is an offensive, offensive organization carrying out an attack, it must have a force ratio of 6:1.
Okay.
We have a force ratio of 6:1 because if you have actually given a figure of 10,000, do you consider about 2,000 Iranians are going to be there to receive them? There'll be 50,000 Iranians will be actually mobilized to receive them. So, from the very onset, this operation is not going to happen. And Donald Trump also knows that it is harakiri if he carries out this operation on.
So, what does the common man out there, General, make of developments and understandings of the USS Tripoli, the USS New Orleans, the amphibious docks, the 82nd Airborne Division? What do we make of that? Are these stalling tactics in the meantime? And we've seen how previously during negotiations attacks have happened on Iran. So, and Iran very well knows the playbook that was in play in Iraq, that was play in Vietnam and in Afghanistan.
You see, Iran has studied USA strategy and tactics in a very, very great depth.
Okay.
And Iran also knows that it is not possible for the United States to carry out this operation in this manner. And first day, Kabir, I can tell you on the first day of the operation, there are going to be 300 to 400 US casualties happening in this operation. So let's not take it like, it's not a Google operation, or it is not being, from the researcher's point of view, from a military man's point of view. This operation, I can take you back to Gallipoli operations in the World War One, where more than 50,000 soldiers of the British Army were killed in a similar kind of an operation. So now Iran is a nightmare for an offender or for an offensive formation, and for a defensive formation. I think it's the best option you can have if you have a country like Iran.
Okay.
Have the Zagros mountain, which are dominating this entire Kharg Island, Laruk Islands, Abu Musa Islands, because these are the three islands which US wants to capture. Okay, yes, I take the probability that the Marines are exceedingly good, they are professional, they'll be able to capture this island. Are they going to hold these islands?
There's one thing, you land inside the island, you can parachute on the island, but what do you do next? And you rightly pointed out, you think it's harakiri and suicidal for this boots on the ground operation to go. Adit, let's bring you in on this. What do you make of it? What is it? Is it talks? Is it traps? Is Donald Trump trying to buy more time? Because Iran believes these talks and what happened yesterday in that big boardroom where everybody who don't know the topography or the geography of those islands were deciding and patting each other's backs as to what was really happening. Iran believes this is all a prelude to the invasion. So what's your assessment in reading of this?
So Major General Kocher mentioned 50,000. I will up that and double that figure to probably 1 million fighters of the IRGC and combined, probably waiting for American troops. The Iranians have been studying the US operations, just not in Iraq or Syria or Libya, but even Afghanistan, which is their neighbor. And they have built themselves, they've built their capabilities on the back of that, which we saw on the first day of the war itself. February 28th, they attacked, and we saw the kind of mosaic structure that the IRGC and the besieged militias basically demonstrated. Even after the leadership, which got completely taken off, and the central command center were completely damaged, you had local commanders and all of these commanders from the IRGC and besieged operating in complete independence. They were absorbing the strikes, they were using, and they are basically modeled to function that way in a decentralized manner. So even if these 82nd Air Troopers and these paramilitary troopers were to come down, if they come down, they're only going to go back in body bags. So I don't think military operations is quite what Donald Trump is preparing for, or rather prepared for. And I don't think, Tripoli or Boxer or any of these naval ships are built for modern warfare. I mean, Major General Kocher would probably add to that from a military standpoint. But what we've seen so far, I don't think they fit the bill. In the guerrilla warfare tactics that we've seen so far. So even if they were to come, I think it's going to be catastrophic. I think what Donald Trump is doing is he's trying to politically posture and create pressure on the Iranians to somehow, get into an off-ramp and, build a convergence on where they can actually create some sort of a disengagement, and both sides can walk away with some sort of a face saver.
Can the United States sustain a long war politically? Ambassador, negotiations are happening in the headlines. They're not happening in reality. Trust deficit is peaking from both sides. They're talking past each other. They need mediators that are also just passing on messages like the owls we saw in Harry Potter. If the United States does push ahead with the ground invasion, what does that mean for global alliance? I will go to the general and understand if the ground invasion does happen, what's going to be the objective, what could be the missions that would look like. But if it does happen, if it does go ahead, what would that mean for global alliances, especially the Gulf nations, and how we're postured? We're still reeling under that energy shock. What do we want? What are we looking at? Today, the Ministry of External Affairs also gave their weekly press conference. What did you make of that, Ambassador? And if this does go on, how do you think this is going to play out in the region?
Kabir, one or two things here.
Yeah.
We continue to look at Iran situation, imbroglio, conundrum, whatever you want to call it, from the USA prism. Please do remember that there are two more parties in the whole situation: Gulf countries and Israel. In fact, I'm sorry, in the different order: Israel and Gulf countries. And we should remember that any kind of a political solution in the area will come only when all four are on the same page. And that is not happening. Certainly not Israel. Gulf, Saudi Arabia is reported to be continuously pressing Donald Trump to finish the agenda. I don't know how true that is. The situation is very, very confused, very complex.
Yeah.
Old Persian Arab rivalries are coming into play. Palestine is coming into play. There are so many factors that we cannot look at this simply as a simple war. We are looking at a regional situation where there is no political common objective. I'm sorry. There is a common political objective, but not every party agrees on how to get to that political objective.
Fair enough.
Amongst the four, there are two who are getting tired of the war. Okay? Therefore, to simply say that because the deployment could lead to war, or will not lead to war, or this might happen, is very, very perplexing. The problem here is Iran doesn't fight or want to fight any more war. Third, yes, important. USA midterm elections are coming. The economy is in doldrums.
Yeah.
They want to finish it. Other two don't. Therefore, to make a prediction about anything happening depends not just on the USA, not on Iran. The other two, what do they want? Coming to the global situation,
Yeah.
all I can say really here is that if, God forbid, it does turn into a ground war, overwhelming deployment by, and I agree completely, that 4,000 Marines are not going to make much of a difference when there are 60,000, 100,000 Iranians defending the ground. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you require weapons to fight. Iran may fall short of the weapon.
Okay.
So on the whole thing, any ground invasion is going to lead to a situation which will be cumbersome, not sustainable for a long time.
That's a fair point.
And could result in a situation like Iraq.
Yep, that's a fair point.
If that happens, the whole God save the world, because economically, politically, strategically, it is not sustainable.
Fair enough. So you're saying it's going to be cumbersome. The bleed and delay tactics. We're already on round 10 of the boxing match. Iran has tired out the opponent, but it probably does not have the gloves anymore to fight this on. General, what do you make of what the ambassador is telling us? They need weapons to fight, and if, God forbid, I'm going to take that quote from the ambassador, God forbid the ground invasion actually takes place, what are going to be some of the immediate missions and objectives? Donald Trump says they're going to go there, take out 460 kgs of enriched uranium themselves. How easy or difficult is it going to be? Is it even practical to think that something like that can exist and happen?
Kabir, Mr. Kothari also actually mentioned some interesting observations. I will also comment on that and what the ambassador has said about Israel and the Gulf countries. So, firstly, from a military perspective, purely, what is the aim or what is the objective of launching an attack on the Karg Island? It's not uranium. So, let's discount that, because uranium is there in Natanz, Fardo, and Isfahan. It's all part of those Zagros mountains, which are on the boundary of Iraq. So there is no way this force can move from the coastal area in the Persian Gulf, which is bordering Iran, and move towards those objectives, because this 10,000, 20,000 force is going to be mincemeat. They'll be finished by the time they even actually plan to go there. So, I think the objective right now is the Strait of Hormuz, control of the Strait of Hormuz, because that, I think, is the prime concern of Donald Trump. Can he achieve it? Because this is a war conventional against asymmetric, because all these operations are conventional operations. They are textbook operations, like you secure a beach and you make a beachhead and you occupy a couple of islands, and then you try to dominate them by your fire and observation. It's not possible, because Iran has got asymmetric warfare on its side. Drones are there, mines are there, and even if one ship vessel is sunk in the Strait of Hormuz, the Strait of Hormuz is effectively closed. Next important aspect is the Bab al-Mandab Strait and the Red Sea, because that will also get activated, and if that is closed, and it is likely to be closed without much opposition, I think the NATO countries are going to suffer the most. The European Union is going to suffer the most, because the Suez Canal connectivity into the Mediterranean Sea.
Isn't that going to make Donald Trump happy, General? Donald Trump also said yesterday, the NATO nations are doing absolutely nothing. I'm disappointed with the NATO nations.
So yes, I agree with you, because this is going to be catastrophe for the NATO countries, for the European, and I don't think Donald Trump is going to take this stupid kind of a measure. And I'm sure his military commander, if I was a military commander, Kabir, I would have actually advised him from such a foolhardy operation. My last point is what the ambassador actually mentioned, the impact on the Gulf countries, because moment you do an action like this, you will see the entire desalination plants, the energy sources, everything of the Gulf is going to come to a knot. And I don't think that is.
And we've seen in the last 28 days, General, how Iran knows how to strategically maximize the chaos. They've shown it in the first few weeks as well. You target us, we'll target the entire region, we'll bring everybody into this game. It's not going to be a one-on-one, it's going to be a handicap, triple threat, whatever you want to call it. Other credible points that Ambassador Goel has made, that General Kocher here has made. There's also multi-pronged pressure, because this is a sore point back at home also. Politically, how long can this go on? It's not bearing well with the Congress back at home. The approval ratings are the lowest since he took office. And very recently, 2 Democrats took charge of legislative seats in Florida, one where Mar-a-Lago is situated. So this is not very happy for Donald Trump himself. have we really crossed the point of diplomacy? General says, well, boots on ground is going to be suicidal. Ambassador says that it's still too early and it's a very perplexing situation. And that boardroom meeting, I mean, we have no idea what really goes on there and whether Dan Kane would have approved to what Pete Hegseth was saying. So your final comments before we wrap this all up.
So look, in my perspective, from what I've studied, Iran is not in Iraq. You know, it's 4 times the size. The topography, the geography is very different, you know, where Iraq is predominantly a desert, open terrain, where in Iran you have the Zagros and the Alborz mountains, which are absolute, catastrophe for any military going in there. We saw that in the 1980s Iraq war. After a certain point, the Iraqis, had to falter and they had to fall back. And as a consequence, the regime persisted. Supply lines would be very vulnerable. Passes are very narrow and, they will not be able to sustain that. So, I don't see that ground being reality. However, the one aspect that Ambassador Goel did mention is from an objective perspective. Yeah. It is not about going completely into Iran, but it is about taking control of the Strait of Hormuz, the Kharg Island, which is basically, we have to think about what the Kharg Island is. It is where 90% of Iranian oil is basically docked, stored at, and that is where it takes into the Strait of Hormuz, because it's a deep water sort of a port. And that is what they're looking to hurt Iran. So it's about the economic side of things. They're just going to make the military escalations very, very economically challenging for Iran going forward. And that is what they are going to create a pressure on Iran with. Kabir.
All right then. We're going to continue tracking the developing situation in Iran and the West Asian sector. Many thanks, Ambassador Goel. Always a pleasure to have you with us here on News 9. General Kochhar, great insights yet again. Anadit, many thanks for joining us live from London. Ladies and gentlemen, this is no longer just about deadlines or diplomacy. It's about whether the next move is negotiation or is it invasion. 15-point plan versus 5 promises that Iran wants United States to fulfill first. And what's going to weigh heavy on the Libra scales? Because once boots hit the ground, this won't be a war of days or deals, but of consequences that the entire world may not be ready for. We're going to slip into a quick commercial breather here. Many thanks for watching.
हमें स्वस्थ रखने वाली सारी चीजें ज्यादातर शुद्ध होनी चाहिए। सूर्य की किरणें और स्वच्छ पानी। वैसा ही है लाइन अरेबियन डेट्स और अब लाइन लाइना डेट्स। इसमें फाइबर्स और विटामिन्स भी कुदरती हैं, जो देता है स्वास्थ्य भी कुदरती।
लाइन लाइना प्रीमियम डेट्स। At Tata Motors Commercial Vehicles, truck cabin safety begins at the design stage. We design cabins that preserve driver survival space and meet the gold standard of truck cabin safety, ECE R29.03. But we didn't stop at simulations. We tested for reality. This is real safety, delivered at the moment of impact. Tata Motors Commercial Vehicles, designing, testing and leading the future of trucking with safety at its core.
Ahead of 2026 West Bengal Assembly election, polarization in West Bengal sharpens.
टीएमसी सरकार के जाने का काउंटडाउन शुरू हो चुका है.
There are 3 prime issues: citizenship, border, identity. Is it the Nirmam Sarkar versus May J. Babu?
যতই করো হামলা জিতবে কিন্তু বাংলা।
Who will retain the throne in West Bengal? Can West Bengal look beyond the muddy water of violent politics?
From the ground, the questions that matter, the voices that shape the vote. India votes only on News 9.
बहुत स्वागत है स्मृति जी आपका।
धन्यवाद।
व्हाट इंडिया थिंक्स टुडे और टीवी 9 भारतवर्ष के सत्ता सम्मेलन में हमने अपने सेशन का नाम रखा है क्योंकि स्मृति कभी हार नहीं मानती। ये इसलिए क्योंकि इतना कुछ आप अपने जीवन में और अलग अलग स्टेजेस पे कर चुकी हैं। फुटपाथ पर सामान बेचा, कुरियर सर्विस में काम किया, रेस्टोरेंट में काम किया, राजनीति में आई, सांसद बनी, मंत्री बनी, सीरियल्स में काम किया, दुनिया में अपनी पहचान बनाई, फिर वापसी भी की और अब फिर लोग बहुत पसंद एक बार फिर आपके उस पूरे काम को कर रहे हैं। उसके अलावा दावोस में हमने आपका जो आप वहाँ काम कर रहे हैं वो देखा है। तो इस वजह से सेशन का नाम है क्योंकि स्मृति कभी हार नहीं मानती हैं। आप कैसे देखती हैं इस पूरे सफर को?
क्योंकि आपने क्योंकि का शीर्षक दे दिया है, तो जिस क्योंकि की वजह से ये क्योंकि है, उसी में एक पंक्ति है, रिश्तों के भी रूप बदलते हैं, नए नए सांचे में ढलते हैं। तो मेरा ये सौभाग्य है कि नए सांचों में ढलने का मुझे बार बार अवसर मिला। ये सौभाग्य है कि कई चीज़ें जो अपॉर्चुनिटी बन के आती हैं लेकिन बंदिश बनकर रह जाती हैं, तो उन बंधनों से भी मुक्त करके अपने आप को नए नए स्वरूपों में मैं अपने आप को समाज में प्रस्तुत कर पाई। लेकिन जो आपने मेरी जीवन यात्रा का एक छोटा सा प्रतिबिंब यहाँ प्रस्तुत किया है, उसे देखकर ऐसा